My husband, Scott, and an unknown woman were seen leaving the maternity clinic where my friend works. No way. Scott, you were having an affair? I just found out my husband is cheating on me, and now it looks like his mistress is expecting. In a panic, I rushed over to confront them, and the woman Lucy boldly declared, "I'm carrying your husband's child. Please, divorce him quickly." She didn't care at all, not even when I was right there, his wife, asking for a divorce, only thinking about herself. I was dumbfounded by Lucy's audacity. There seemed to be no point in being married to Scott any longer. Fed up with everything, I just gave in and said, "Fine, if that's what Scott wants, let's do it." They looked at each other, grabbed hands, and started celebrating. "So, we don't have to hide our trip anymore, yay!" Trips?
Actually, we're going on a honeymoon next week. I was going to lie that it was a business trip, but no need to sneak around anymore.
Now that I've agreed to the divorce, my husband and his mistress are acting all brave, telling me everything, even things I didn't want to hear. Their selfish behavior continued. I had told Scott we should talk once, but days passed without him returning home. Were they planning to confess after their honeymoon? That was what I thought until one day. This is unbelievable. I received 33 filled-out divorce forms in the mail, complete with photos of Scott and his mistress, clearly intended to torment me. Eager to divorce, they sent these during their trip. She didn't give us a chance to talk, just sending these forms, jumping to divorce. You've got some nerve. Be prepared. Something inside me snapped. My name is Vanessa. I work as a nurse in a hospital. I met Scott about 3 years ago at a friend's wedding. Unlike me, who is shy and not good at making conversation, Scott was the life of the party and stood out among the guests, which drew my attention. As the reception ended, everyone moved to the venue for the after party. It was an open seating arrangement, and I sat at a corner island seat with my high school classmate, Mia. Soon, Scott took the seat next to mine.
"I hope it's okay I sat next to you,"
he said, feeling overwhelmed by his forwardness. I was in full introvert mode. Still, Scott kept talking to me.
"Do you have a boyfriend?"
"No."
"Where do you work?"
"Well..."
"Oh, and how old are you? The same age as me?"
He bombarded me with questions. Overwhelmed by Scott, one of his friends teased him.
"Dude, you're grilling her too much because you're interested, huh? She looks shocked."
Realizing I was uncomfortable, Scott blushed deeply and apologized.
"I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. Just, I was being curious." "Hey, he's been saying you're cute since the wedding. He's a good guy, so why don't you give him your number?"
Encouraged by Scott's friend, I agreed to exchange my number since I had no boyfriend or someone I was interested in at the time.
"I'll definitely call you,"
Scott promised happily, showing off his charming dimples. The next day, true to his word, Scott invited me out for a meal. When we first met, he seemed like a goofy party animal, but when I hung out with him, he stammered shyly.
"So, got any favorite foods?"
Scott is just too cute with his shyness and dimples. So we went on several dates and eventually started dating. After about 6 months, Scott proposed, and we quickly decided to get married. Moving in together raised a concern for me. So, about the expenses for the wedding and moving in together, I found it difficult to say, so I avoided being direct and told him, while fidgeting a bit. Given my job as a nurse, I earn a decent salary, which is generally considered above average. Scott had a job at a manufacturer's office, making less money each month than me and getting smaller bonuses. I wondered if it bothered him that his wife earned more, but Scott casually suggested,
"Why not split it 50-50? Right now I earn less and honestly don't have much saved, but I'll work hard not to be outdone by you, Vanessa."
My worries seemed unnecessary. I was surprised by how positive Scott was. But another concern lingered. I have night shifts, with my regular hours. Could you help with the housework? Due to my work as a nurse, my working hours are quite irregular. Honestly, there are many aspects of household chores that we need to share in order to manage them. So having someone who would share these chores properly was very important to me.
Housework? That's something we should do together. If you're good with easy meals, I can cook, and I'm happy to help with cleaning and laundry as well. Let's support each other.
It seems this was also an unnecessary worry, just like the conversation about salaries. Scott had lived on his own before, so he was quite capable and didn't see household chores as a burden. Me and Scott got married smoothly after my worries disappeared. Both our friends and our parents celebrated our new life together, and we started our married life smoothly. Once we began living together, Scott kept his promise and actively participated in household chores. After my night shift, I returned home to find pasta in the fridge. Scott had done the cleaning and laundry without any issues. Whenever I cooked, he would eat heartily, exclaiming,
"Delicious! Is there more?"
On days off, he would take me out on dates to various places. It was indeed a blissful time. The only thing missing was our plan to get a child, which turned out to be more challenging than I had expected. I thought getting pregnant would be a breeze after getting hitched, but it's not as easy as I thought. I bet a bunch of folks think the same thing. Unfortunately, reality was not so forgiving. A year into our marriage, I still wasn't pregnant. I was 28 at the time and had hoped to have a couple of children before turning 30, a desire I had already discussed with Scott. However, Scott seemed in no rush and casually suggested,
"Let's not hurry."
I guess you can't really force yourself to get pregnant. It's been bothering me how we haven't been as affectionate with each other since we got married. After all, without that, getting pregnant is impossible. At first, we slept together in the same room, but due to my job, I would often return home late at night, occasionally waking Scott. He suggested,
"I wake up at the smallest noise, so maybe we should sleep separately?"
And now it's making it harder to get pregnant. I'm starting to feel down about us not being able to have a baby, but despite that, our relationship wasn't so terrible, and I enjoyed being with Scott, so I tried not to dwell on it too much. But 2 years into our marriage, our happiness began to crumble. Will you be home late again today?
Yeah, I have a company party tonight.
I see. What time will you be back?
Not sure. Probably after midnight.
That's pretty late. Haven't the parties been a bit too frequent lately? Scott's late returns and frequent company parties were becoming a problem. He always hung out with his work buddies on weekends, so we didn't get to spend much time together, and it annoyed me. But Scott ignored my concerns, saying,
"You wouldn't understand the importance of these company parties because you're a woman. How much the bosses like me at these events can change my career. Please don't complain about work."
Sorry.
Well, I'm off.
Annoyed by my words, Scott slammed the front door on his way out. The slam caused the picture frame from our wedding displaying us smiling to fall over. Left alone, I sighed deeply, picked up the frame, and headed to work. I understand the importance of networking for his job, but I can't help but feel uneasy about the recent change in his attitude towards me. He didn't prepare dinner again. Before, Scott would prepare meals for me and pack them up before leaving for work, but one day that stopped. Eventually, after a short nap, I found myself having to cook my meals. Hey, why haven't you done the laundry? Despite the laundry basket being completely full, it has been left untouched, so I had to remind Scott. Today was supposed to be Scott's turn to clean.
I was busy. It's not a big deal.
It is a big deal. Where am I supposed to put today's clothes if the basket is already full?
Jeez, you're so annoying. If you're going to complain, just do it all yourself.
Scott lounged on the sofa, ignoring me as he played with his phone. I ended up doing the laundry myself, increasing my household burden. We had agreed to share the housework before marriage, but that agreement had collapsed along with Scott's change. He was often out late due to overtime or company parties, and on weekends he went out alone. He had become harsher even when he's talking to me. How did we end up here? A dreadful thought crossed my mind. Is he cheating on me? No, I can't jump to conclusions about him without any evidence. I really tried to get rid of that idea. But Scott continued to change, making it impossible not to suspect him. Hey, what's this? I found a colored lip product on his suit, typically worn to work.
Oh, my lips were dry, so I bought some lip balm, but I accidentally got a tinted one.
He said, his eyes darting around nervously. Visibly flustered, he quickly said,
I'm so tired. I'm going to bed.
And ran to his bedroom. It was obviously suspicious, but if he claimed it was a mistake, that was that. I couldn't press him any further, so I decided to let it go at that moment. But on another day, a substantial amount of money had been transferred from our joint account to Scott's personal account. Scott, why is money from our joint account being transferred to your account?
I overspent this month, but it's no big deal.
It is a big deal. Don't use the money without my permission. We need to save for the future.
Are you seriously giving me another lecture again? Sorry, I'll be more careful.
He said that and retreated to his bedroom again, but the following months showed continuous unauthorized withdrawals. Scott, did you take money from our account again? I told you to stop, right?
It doesn't matter. We don't have kids anyway.
I almost raised my voice to say, we don't have kids because you're not trying, right? But I held back. That's not the issue. I don't understand why you need to spend $1,000 to $2,000 a month just because we don't have kids. What are you spending it on?
Why do I have to explain how I spend my money to you?
My husband argued back angrily. Even when we argue like this, he never puts down his smartphone. Whether he's going to the bathroom or just around the house, he always has it with him. It's like he's married to his phone, not me. Can you at least put down your phone now? Look at me when you talk. I couldn't help but let my emotions spill over.
Enough. You're so annoying. Just let me be.
With that, he retreated to his room while still looking at his phone. He tells me to let him be, but he's doing whatever he wants. Where has the husband I loved gone? I can't even remember the last time I saw him smile with those dimples I loved. At home, he's always irritable. The traces of his kindness have vanished. What did I even like about him? I'm beginning to realize that my feelings for Scott are fading. I find myself questioning whether I should divorce him. One day, my nursing school friend Mia asked, "Want to catch up over a meal? It's been a while." "Yes, I'd love to. It's been so long. Where should we meet? Your place or mine?" "Actually, let's meet near my workplace this time. I'm sorry, but could you come over here? And let's meet around 3 p.m. Mia, like me, is a nurse, but she works in OBGYN, so she suggested meeting at a cafe near her clinic. It was unusual for us not to meet at one of our homes and just hang out, especially not at lunch or dinner time, but at 3 p.m. I found it odd, but since I was looking forward to seeing Mia, I didn't think much of it until the day of our meeting. When I arrived at the cafe, Mia was there, looking down more than usual. "Is something wrong?" I asked, sensing the unusual atmosphere. Mia paused, then spoke heavily. "Just watch outside the window without asking me anything." Through the window, I could clearly see Mia's workplace. I began to understand what she meant, and we sat in silence, staring outside. That's when it happened. As we looked, I spotted my husband at the clinic with a pregnant woman I didn't know. I see. Yeah, I kind of had a feeling about this. Tears welled up, and my grip on my coffee cup tightened. "Mia, it's a nice day, isn't it? It's really warm and the temperature is perfect." As I spoke, tears started rolling down my cheeks. "Vanessa." Mia held my hand. She probably didn't want to know either that her friend's husband was having an affair. Mia had been at the wedding where Scott and I met. She was right there when he approached me, so she knew his face and name. Now it all made sense why she called me. My husband wasn't just visiting any woman at the maternity clinic. He was there with another woman. I'm going to leave now. I can't just give out patient information because I'm your friend. I'm sorry this is all I could do. You should talk to Scott. Thank you, Mia. I'll talk to him. And call me if you need anything, okay? I'm always on your side. Now wipe your tears before you go. Saying this, Mia wiped my tears with her handkerchief. She had always been like an older sister to me since our student days. I thanked her again and waited outside the maternity clinic for the two to emerge. When they came out, I hurried over to them. Congratulations on the pregnancy, Scott. You two really look great together, I said with a forced smile. They were shocked and gave each other a quick look. Scott? Is this your wife? She didn't seem to recognize me, and Scott turned pale.
You? Why are you?
Normally glued to his smartphone, now he was staring right at me. What about you? Weren't you supposed to be at work today? I asked with a smile. Scott stuttered, trying to come up with an excuse, and then blurted out.
No, this is just my friend's girlfriend. I came along to support her.
What a total lie. I just sighed at his lame excuse. But my husband's remark caused the woman next to him to exclaim, What? In anger. She sharply reprimanded Scott, who was trying to casually brush off the situation with a stern voice. Scott, you said you were going to divorce your wife.
Yes, that's right, but I haven't talked to her about it yet.
Oh, really? Divorce? That's news to me. Scott, you haven't told her anything? Cornered by both his wife and mistress, Scott was at a loss for words. Let's not talk here. How about we move somewhere else? I led the two of them back to the cafe where Mia and I had been earlier. None of us started talking immediately. Instead, we each ordered a coffee to calm our nerves. During the whole time, my husband was avoiding eye contact with me and staring at the table instead. But in stark contrast, Lucy was looking straight into my eyes. My name is Lucy. I'm in a relationship with Scott, and as you just saw, I'm pregnant with his child. Please, divorce him immediately. Even in front of his actual wife, she was unfazed, demanding a divorce with such entitlement that I almost choked on my coffee. Lucy's eyes were dead serious. It seemed like she viewed me as the ultimate challenge, like a final boss in a game. Trying not to be overwhelmed by Lucy, I clenched my fists under the table and managed to keep my composure. When did you and Scott start seeing each other? I asked. It's been a year. A year ago. That's when Scott's overtime suddenly increased. It was also around the same time he started becoming distant. So she was the person he became cold towards me. The tinted lip balm in his pocket, the withdrawals from our joint account. It was all because of Lucy. Now thinking that, there were too many signs. The dots in my mind started to connect. Wow, a whole year. And what does Scott want to do now? Hearing this, Lucy glared sharply at my husband. Feeling her stare, Scott visibly flinched. Lucy had Scott eating out of the palm of her hand. Seeing how cocky he was at home made me so annoyed.
Well, since it's out, there's no helping it. I want a divorce. It's unfortunate, but what can we do? There's a child on the way.
Exactly. For the sake of the baby in my belly, please divorce immediately. Both my husband and his mistress, now bold, began pressuring me together. My feelings for Scott had been fading, that was true. But why should they dictate the timing of our divorce? You two. Just as I was about to speak, Lucy interjected. I'm in a stable period now, and we're planning to go on a honeymoon next week, before the baby comes.
Hey, don't say that.
A honeymoon? They were planning this while Scott was still married to me. I was utterly appalled. Everything's out in the open now, isn't it?
Well, that's true. Vanessa, that's the deal. We're planning to lie about it being a business trip, but we're going on our honeymoon next week. Their statements were so absurd that I was speechless, a question mark practically floating above my head. Was my husband always this dumb?
Feeling indifferent, I said, "Fine, go ahead." Upon hearing this, the two exchanged a glance and suddenly smiled, beginning to hold hands.
Really? Yes. Lucy, we're free now.
So, I don't have to hide anymore? Can I post lots of photos with you on social media?
Well, maybe not on social media. You never know who's watching, and it might look bad if it seems like I got another woman pregnant right after I get a divorce.
You want to hide our relationship? That's terrible.
Sorry, my bad. Don't be mad.
All of a sudden, they started a lover's spat right in front of me. What was I even witnessing? I'm going to leave. Scott will handle the necessary paperwork later. With that, I left the cafe, leaving the two behind. I thought to myself, Lucy really seems like a handful. Thinking this almost as if it were someone else's problem, I went home. I had become completely indifferent to everything. That night, my husband did not return home. Not just that night, but a week passed without him coming back home. He said he wanted a divorce, but without him coming home, we couldn't even discuss it. As I stared at the calendar, I remembered that they were supposed to be on their trip since yesterday. I thought to myself, they planned to talk about the divorce after returning from their trip, I guess. However, that day, a thick envelope arrived at home. The sender was Scott Brown, my husband's name. Opening it, I was baffled. Inside were dozens of divorce papers. Why are there so many? Counting them, there were exactly 33 divorce papers. Moreover, 15 of them had photos of my husband and his mistress enjoying themselves attached. And on another 17, there were phrases like, "Divorce Scott quickly," or "I've included plenty to avoid any mistakes," and "For our child's sake, hurry up and leave," presumably written by Lucy. Other papers stated, "That house of yours is for me and my child now." That house meant for my husband, his mistress, and their child? I couldn't understand how they thought this was acceptable. I was furious at her audacity, and she even sent this during their honeymoon. She didn't even give us time to talk, just sending these papers trying to force a divorce. Nice try. Get ready for what's coming. I felt something snap inside me. It was unclear if my husband knew about this, but since he signed them, I guess that means he was okay with me filing them. I immediately submitted the divorce papers. Later, perhaps back from their trip, my now ex-husband called.
Hey, what the hell is this?
He was frantic as soon as I picked up the phone. I had a pretty good idea why he was panicking, but played dumb. What happened?
What happened? When I returned from the trip and finally came home after a long time, our house was being demolished. What's going on? Explain this to me.
Actually, on the day I filed for divorce, when they returned from the trip, I wanted to teach my ex-husband and Lucy a lesson. I remembered that woman claiming she would take the house. To really show them, taking the house seemed like the most effective measure. So I spoke to my mother-in-law saying, "I have something to discuss with you. I have been consulting with my in-laws about my husband's misconduct. Although my relationship with my husband was not good, I had a good relationship with my in-laws and thought they could help me." When I explained the situation, my in-laws were furious and asked me to send all my husband's belongings to their home.
I can't believe he got his mistress pregnant. A stupid son like him should be taught a painful lesson,
they said, promising to help in any way they could. I immediately sent all my ex-husband's belongings to his parents' house. I left it to my in-laws to handle from there. I also moved all my belongings and completed the procedures to demolish the house entirely. By the time my ex-husband returned, the demolition had already begun. In about a week it will be completely cleared.
What?
Lucy said she was getting the house, so I demolished it. There's no way I could let that woman and her child live there with you.
Don't be ridiculous. How could you do something so dumb? That house and the land it's on are owned by my dad. You had no right to do anything to it.
Yes, I know that. That's why I consulted with your dad. He also said that a stupid son who cheats and impregnates his mistress should have his house demolished.
Did you talk to my parents about this?
Yes, I told them everything. That you cheated and that she's pregnant. They were quite angry.
What have you done? I was supposed to live there with Lucy and our child starting next week.
I don't care. Oh, and our divorce is finalized, so don't call me again. If you need to talk, contact me through a lawyer.
When did we get divorced? I didn't hear anything about this. What do you mean, lawyer?
What? Lucy sent a bunch of divorce papers. I filed them right away. I realized how terrible his actions were. After that, my ex-husband kept calling, but I ignored all his calls. Eventually, he had to pay me $25,000 in compensation. Considering my ex-husband's inability to save, it seemed unlikely he could easily pay such a large sum, but I made sure he would pay through a lawyer. He probably hoped to rely on his parents, but they had said,
No matter what, we will not help a stupid son who cheated on his wife.
So he couldn't expect any help from them. He got what he deserved. As for Lucy, I managed to get $10,000 in damages from her for sending me those divorce papers and photos and for having an affair knowing Scott was married. I thought they would try to make a new start, but it didn't work out between them. After all, Lucy had posted photos of their trip together on social media while Scott was still technically married to me, and their affair became widely known. When the rumor spread, it caused a big stir at my ex-husband's workplace.
I told you not to post on social media.
My ex-husband had scolded Lucy, but she exploded in anger because of that. Eventually, they broke up after a pointless argument. What a stupid ending to their relationship, but how they live is no longer my concern. As for me, I'm still working as a nurse. Being single after the divorce, I somehow feel more at peace than when I was married. My job is demanding, but it's rewarding when patients express their gratitude. After everything was settled, I contacted Mia, who had been a great help, to tell her, the divorce is finalized. It's all over.
You did well,
she said, crying. Having such a kind and supportive friend is truly wonderful. Mia and I have promised to go on a girls' trip together. Although I'm wary of romance for now, I hope to meet a kind and caring man who will treasure me someday.